To set the context, I'm a female high school student and not old enough to drive yet. I typically spent my weekends hanging around my neighborhood with my friends or going fishing alone at one of those community ponds. With that being said, I woke up early on a sunny Saturday morning, eager to go fishing at the pond near the community park. I had been looking forward to this all week, and I couldn't wait to cast my line and catch some fish. As I walked towards the pond, I noticed a man sitting in a parked car nearby. He was staring at me and smiling, but something about his gaze made me feel uneasy. I tried to ignore him and focused on getting to the pond. As I started fishing, I felt the man's eyes on me. I looked over, and he was still sitting in his car, staring at me. This time, his smile was even more creepy, and I felt a chill run down my spine. I tried to ignore him and focus on fishing, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching my every move. I felt like prey, and the man was the predator. Suddenly, the man got out of his car and started walking towards me. He was tall and muscular, and he had a sinister look in his eyes. I felt my heart racing as he approached me, and I knew that I was in danger. "Hey, little girl," he said, his voice low and menacing. "What are you doing out here all alone?" "I'm just fishing," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm not bothering anyone." The man laughed, and his laugh was like nails on a chalkboard. "I know that," he said. "I just thought I'd come say hi. You look like you could use a friend." I tried to back away, but the man stepped closer, and I could smell the alcohol on his breath. He was drunk, and he was dangerous. "Come on, let's go for a ride," he said, gesturing towards his car. "I'll take you for ice cream. We'll have fun." I knew what he was really after. He wasn't interested in being my friend. He wanted to kidnap me, and I had to get away. "I'm not going anywhere with you," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Leave me alone." The man's smile disappeared, and he lunged towards me. I screamed and started running towards the park, hoping that someone would hear me and come to my rescue. As I ran, I could hear the man chasing me, his footsteps pounding on the pavement. I knew that I couldn't outrun him, so I looked around for something to defend myself. I spotted a stick lying on the ground, and I picked it up. I turned around to face the man, and I held the stick out in front of me, ready to defend myself. The man stopped in his tracks, surprised by my sudden change in demeanor. He stared at me for a moment, and then he turned around and walked back to his car. I waited until he was gone, and then I ran back to my house as fast as I could. I locked all of the doors and windows, and I didn't leave the house for the rest of the day. The incident left me traumatized, and I never went fishing alone again. I realized that there were people out there who wanted to hurt me, and I had to be careful. But I didn't let the fear consume me. Instead, I used it as a reminder to always be vigilant and stay safe. It was early on a crisp morning in the middle of the summer, and I was ecstatic to be going on a fishing trip with my buddies. We had planned this trip for months, and we couldn't wait to get on the water. We arrived at the lake just as the sun was rising, and the water was calm as glass. We unpacked our gear, loaded up our boat, and set out for the middle of the lake. The scenery was breathtaking, and we were surrounded by tall trees, rolling hills, and the sound of birds chirping. As we started fishing, the fish were biting like crazy. We caught one fish after another, and we were having a great time. It was the perfect day, and we were all in high spirits. After a few hours, we noticed the sky started to darken, and the wind picked up. We checked the weather report, and it indicated that a storm was heading our way. We decided it was time to pack up and head back to shore. As we started paddling towards the shore, we heard a strange noise in the water. We turned to see a massive fish swimming towards us. Its scales shimmered in the sunlight, and it was at least 6 feet long. We had never seen a fish like this before, and we were in awe. The fish swam past us and disappeared into the depths of the lake. We continued paddling towards the shore, but we noticed that the storm was getting closer and more intense. The wind was howling, and the rain was pouring down. It was getting difficult to navigate, and we knew we had to get to shore quickly. Suddenly, we heard a loud splash behind us. We turned to see the same massive fish had jumped out of the water and landed in our boat. It was thrashing around, and we were afraid it would tip the boat over. We tried to push the fish back into the water, but it was too heavy. We decided to try and paddle back to shore with the fish in the boat, but it was a difficult task. As we were paddling, we noticed that the fish was injured. Its tail was bleeding, and we could tell it was in pain. We knew we had to do something to help the fish. We finally made it back to shore, and we immediately called the local fish and game department. They sent a team to help us and the fish. The team determined that the fish was a type of sturgeon, known for their large size and strength. They also discovered that the fish had been hooked by a previous fisherman, and the hook was causing it great pain. The team carefully removed the hook, and we all watched in amazement as the fish swam back into the water. It was a magical moment, and we all felt a sense of awe and respect for the power of nature. As we left the lake, we were all grateful for the experience. We had caught some fish, but more importantly, we had witnessed something incredible. It was a day we would never forget, and we would always remember the beauty and majesty of the natural world. I had spent the day fishing in a remote lake, miles away from civilization. It was a peaceful, solitary experience, and I relished the chance to escape from the hustle and bustle of city life. As the sun began to set, I packed up my gear and started the long drive back home. I was cruising down the deserted road when my car suddenly sputtered and died. I tried to start it again, but it wouldn't budge. I was stranded, alone, and miles away from any help. Panic started to set in, but I tried to stay calm and think of a solution. That's when I saw him. A man, standing on the side of the road, waving his arms and shouting. He was dressed in dirty, tattered clothes, and his face was hidden under a hood. At first, I thought he might be in trouble and needed help. But as I got closer, I realized that something was off. He had a sinister look in his eyes, and his body language was aggressive. "Hey, buddy," he said, approaching my car. "Looks like you're in trouble. Need a ride?" I hesitated. My gut was telling me that something wasn't right, but I didn't want to be stranded out here alone. I decided to take a chance and accept his offer. I got out of my car and approached him, and that's when things took a dark turn. He started to circle me, his eyes gleaming with malice. "Actually, I think I'll just take your car," he said, pulling out a knife. "And your wallet. And anything else you've got." I tried to run, but he was too fast. He tackled me to the ground, and I felt the cold steel of the knife against my throat. I was trapped, with no way out. I knew that I was going to die. But then, out of nowhere, I heard the sound of a car engine approaching. The stranger looked up, distracted, and I took my chance. I punched him as hard as I could and took off running towards the approaching car. As I ran towards the car, I could see the driver's face. It was a woman, and she looked concerned. "Please help me," I shouted, my voice shaking with fear. "That man is trying to kill me." The woman didn't hesitate. She stopped the car and opened the door, and I jumped in. We sped away from the scene, leaving the stranger behind. I didn't know who that woman was, or where she came from. But in that moment, she was my hero. She saved my life, and I will always be grateful. I reported the incident to the police, and they eventually caught the man who had tried to kill me. He was a known criminal, with a long history of violent crimes. I never forgot that day, and I never took my safety for granted again. The experience changed me, and it made me realize just how fragile and precious life is. Thanks for watching, and be sure to leave a comment on your thoughts on these stories. Also, let us know if you have a story that you would like to share. We would love to have your story on our channel. Leave a comment or email us.